Game Garage, and in this video today I'd like to cover shooters, and in particular Japanese bullet hell shooters. I'll be doing a little history tour all the way back to 1979, talking about Space Invaders, and then moving on to a few of my favourite games played on this cab here. So a lot of the games I'll be playing today will be played via a PC that I have installed into this machine. I haven't damaged the machine. It's running via something called a Jpac, which enables you to connect directly to a PC through the original cabling of the machine, as you can see here. And basically the games then, I've got them running through a piece of emulation software called Groovy, which replicates the exact screen refresh and almost as close as you can get pixel perfect to the original PCB. Groovy itself is, if you're going to do emulation, is the best way if you're using an original arcade monitor, as I always do. I think it's a nice way of accessing more games via emulation without having to go and ruin your machine by cutting cables and so on. So let me take you back to 1979. I was once lucky enough to find an original Space Invaders. The version I had was actually the Japanese version, the Tate version, not the American Midway version. As you can see here, it's a nice cab, not too shabby. I've done some minor restoration to it. If you look very closely, in fact the monitor is set in the bottom of the machine here. I'll just show you on the camera here. And in fact was reflected off of a mirror, which then in fact was actually the viewable screen. And also the moon, I should point out, was in fact actually there. It's a physical piece of plastic with a lamp behind it. So you had a very kind of interest in depth of field. It was a nice machine, but I soon became tired of it and decided to move it on. This is my Sega Net City Jammer Cab, or Candy Cab. You'll notice that the playing level is quite low, so you can sit on the stool and play it rather than stand up. Also as well, you'll notice that the monitor is actually mounted vertically. Most bullet hell games tend to be this aspect ratio, so this is my main machine for shooters. Also as well, we have very durable Sanwa joysticks and buttons. So let's give it a go. Continuing our quick tour of arcade shooters, Namco then brought a game out following Space Invaders called Galaxians, which was one of the early colour games, or what they call RGB games, which came out in 1978. Galaxians was then followed by Namco's follow-up game, Galaga. This brings us to 1982, which then brought the introduction of Xevious, which featured a scrolling background. Capcom then brought us 1942, which came out in 1984, which introduced the idea of power-ups for the first time in vertical shooters. In 1988, Taito released Tatsujin, again with some amazing power-ups, as you can see here. In 1993, Toplane brought us Batsuga, which is regarded as one of the earliest forms of a Japanese bullet hell arcade blaster. Then we arrive at 1995, Dodonpachi, which is one of the legendary Japanese blasters by Atlas and Cave, and also one of my favourites. And I'll be showing you more of the Dodonpachi series in this video. So that's the history lesson done. Let's move on to some of my favourite games. So this brings me to my favourite game, Dodonpachi, which was a sequel, in fact, to Dodonpachi. Before we go and play a game, I just want to quickly explain about how these work. As you can see here in this video here, basically the ship has a very small hitbox. So basically bullets pass around the ship, but basically a direct hit through the centre of the ship will basically count as a collision. So therefore it's possible to dodge waves of bullets. It's all just about concentration. So let's play some Dodonpachi.
So next we're about to fight. Okay, the countdown begins. 3, 2, 1, go!
Next up is Dangon Feveron, which is another Japanese bullet hell blaster made by Cave, which has got a kind of disco feel to it. Check it out.
Ready, go!
Now next up is B-Storm. In fact, this is actually a game that was licensed by Cave to another arcade company called IGS. I really like this. Some people actually think this is a bootleg of Dodonpachi or Dodonpachi, but in fact, I really like it. It's fast. It's got big, bold graphics, and yeah, let's give it a go.
Select your battle fighter.
I like the way this actually starts with a boss leading on the first stage. It's almost like a training station. Yeah. brings me to Guanji, which again is another interesting game by Atlas, which was basically set in feudal Japan. This is where Cave and Atlas really started like breaking free of the mold of the basic sort of kind of space shooter and exploring different ideas. Let's give it a go. This is one of my all-time favourites. This is Escalada by Cave, and again going in a completely different direction here. It's like kind of like more fantasy-based shooter. So check it out. This is really intense. I've got time for in this current video. Hope you enjoyed some of the games that I've showed you, and I'll catch you on another one.